Welcome back to the Real News Network for part two of our conversation with Jacqui Patteron. She is the NAACP Director of Environmental and Climate Justice. We are talking about the proposed cuts to a variety of different federal agencies, climate change study programs, renewable energy programs. The Trump administration most grandiosely has proposed a 31% budget cut to the Environmental Protection Agency, and we've been talking with Jacqui about how that would impact communities who are already vulnerable to the effects of climate change. So Jacqui, thanks for joining us back here on part two.
Sure, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
So the Trump administration's proposed budget would also completely eliminate some climate and clean energy programs. So what do you think about this favoring one set of energy, such as mining and the fossil fuel industries, over others, especially when we're talking about renewables, which has shown a tremendous amount of job growth and industry growth across the country, particularly here on the East Coast? So why is Donald Trump picking favorites here with certain industries such as fossil fuels and against renewables, as it were?
Yeah, there's obviously a fairly strong lobby in the fossil fuel industry, and there's also this desire to kind of maintain the status quo, the status quo that has built so much wealth for Donald Trump and so many others. And so the notion of shifting power, literally and figuratively, is something that the fossil fuel industry and others who gain for it are fighting tooth and nail. Unfortunately, it's to the detriment of not only the communities that are host to these polluting industries, but also to some extent to the very workers and for example, coal miners, 76,000 of whom have died of black lung disease since 1968. While the National Mining Association, to which all of their employers pay annual dues, have fought year after year after year against protections against coal mine dust that would have protected their very lives, because coal mine dust is the known contributor to black lung disease. And so not only do we have the situation where the workers are literally dying from their job while their very companies are paying to not have the protections that they need. Also, these companies are lobbying against clean air regulations and safeguards, so that the communities that are then host to the coal-fired power plants that use that coal that they've mined out to burn it to create electricity, those communities are now not able to be protected from that. The that comes from these smokestacks because they fought against the regulations like the Clean Power Plan and so forth. And so we have the whole coal continuum and other fossil fuel-based energy production continuum that are making money hand over fist for some people, while literally sucking the lives out of others.
So the proposals would slash funding for enforcing regulations, fighting water pollution, cleaning up sites contaminated by toxic waste, and promoting energy efficiency appliances. So Jacqui, could we end up seeing a huge bill over the years from these cutbacks in terms of the impact from deregulating the fossil fuel industry? Like, for example, in case as it relates to public health care costs, if we continue to let polluters pollute unabated, obviously this is going to impact more and more people in more and more devastating ways.
Right, and this is where you see how all of these rollbacks are interconnected. So you have the rollbacks and regulations that are then going to result in people being sicker. Then you have the rollbacks and the healthcare protections that are going to result in people not being able to care for themselves when they're sick. Then you have the advancements of a fossil fuel-based industry that is responsible for the climate change that we're already seeing now, which is going to affect communities in the United States as well as communities in the global South, which is what drives what they call climate forced migration, because people are just trying to earn money to help their communities and to help their families. And so folks are trying to immigrate as a result. And then we have these greater restrictions in immigration policy. While we, as 4% 5% of the global population are responsible for 25% of the emissions that are driving climate change. So we put people in a vice by pushing them out of their own countries, by reducing the amount of food that they can grow, by increasing the number of disasters they're going to experience, while reducing the amount of land they have to live on because of sea level rise. And then we push forward with more punitive immigration policies so that they can't even go to the U.S. where they can earn a greater livelihood. So all of these issues are inextricably interconnected. And then I'll end by saying that some of these same companies are paying into these groups like ALEC and so forth that are pushing forward with restrictive voting rights policy, so that even as we go forward, our ability to be able to have a true democracy, to make informed, inclusive decisions about these things is also becoming restricted.
So one very big concern, of course, is access to clean drinking water. With these proposed cuts to the EPA, could we expect to see a lot more water crises, such as the one that happened in Flint, Michigan, as you noted, one that has recently been revealed in East Chicago? Are we going to see more of these as the EPA's ability to monitor water safety could be curtailed by cutbacks?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm headed to East Chicago, Indiana myself on April the 5th to work with that community that is experiencing that. And unfortunately, we were working in Flint before, and they're taking the lessons from Flint to East Chicago, and it feels like that's going to become more and more of what we do, take the lessons from one crisis to the next crisis, because the crises will continue to unfold. I was also just in Anchorage, Alaska, where and that's in addition to rolling back the clean water and safe drinking water protections. There's also specific rollbacks for the Alaskan villages and so up there where some of the villages were beset by pollution from this place called the Red Dog Mines. Over the years they've had 600 violations of the Clean Water Act from that one mine, and that's under existing policies, not to mention where we're experiencing rollbacks. So there's so many waterways and so many people who depend on water for their drinking water, for water that they fish out of, et cetera, and less are they going to have access to what should be a human right.
So 17 Republicans in the House of Representatives introduced a resolution last Wednesday that acknowledges the negative impacts of climate change, quote, that are expected to worsen in every region of the U.S., end quote. And it also calls upon the House to work on solutions for mitigation and adaptation efforts. So given the nature of the threat to health and national security, should this go beyond partisan politics? And have you seen any examples beyond the one I just referenced of partisanship being put aside to work on the interest of cleaning the environment and making sure that climate change has a minimal impact on American citizens?
Yeah, fortunately, we are seeing more and more people acknowledging that climate change is here, that it's impacting communities, and that we have the power to make changes to make it less impactful. I was in Missouri and I was just actually showing in this class I was speaking to here in Pella, this article from that was called "How a Missouri Republican Became a Green Champion," and it was talking about how he actually encountered the NAACP's work on transitioning to clean energy and our need to do so both for climate change and for the environmental health of communities. And he said with the NAACP talking about this from an equality standpoint, we all have a stake in making sure that we are addressing these issues.
Indeed. Well, we certainly appreciate the work that the NAACP and, of course, your office specifically does on tracking these environmental injustices across the United States. And we hope to check in with you more frequently, Jacqui, and have you back on to talk about these incidents as they come up. And unfortunately, they probably will be arising with more frequency. We've been speaking with Jacqui Patteron. She is the NAACP Director of Environmental and Climate Justice, and she joins us today from Pella, Iowa. Jacqui, it was a real pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Take care.
And thank you for watching the Real News Network.